I hated Infect. I thought it was the worst creature ability ever printed on a Magic card. A way for your opponent to kill you regardless of your health points was outrageous to me. Infect cards truly made me despise playing the game. But that was 13 years ago. Now Phyrexia is making its long-awaited return in a dramatic way with new card treatments, abilities, and the new version of Infect, Toxic. So if 14-year-old me looked at Infect cards with disgust and anger, why am I more excited for a Magic the Gathering set now than I've ever been before? The year is 2009. I'd been an avid Yu-Gi-Oh player for most of my younger years. However, one by one, those friends I played Yu-Gi-Oh with began switching to a new game. One with better art, bigger text, and most importantly, far more people to play with. Now, I wasn't great at Magic, nor have I ever been a competitive player, but two of my friends were very good. I played against them constantly and I lost far more often than I won. Although I was the lesser of my peers, I still understood the game's mechanics. Creatures attack opponents directly, allowing the defending player to choose what creatures of theirs block the incoming attacks, and once you reduce your opponent's health to 0, the game is over. Now, of course, there were and are other ways to win the game, but this was the most common way 13 years ago, and this was my way of playing the game. Little did I know that in October the following year, 2 new abilities would present themselves to me. Abilities that I couldn't help but think were designed just to aggravate me. Proliferate and Infect. When I saw Infect in action for the first time, I couldn't believe it. Health totals didn't matter, life gain decks became a thing of the past, and blocking attacking creatures with your own only caused them to get weaker and weaker and die. And Proliferate just added insult to injury. My enjoyment for the game was getting lower and lower. But when my LGS announced that we would be able to pick sides with the next set Mirrored and Besieged, I was ecstatic. This was my way to fight back against the horde of infected abominations that weren't just spreading the plague on the plane of Mirrodin, but were also eroding my escape from reality. My hobby, my friends, my joy were all being eroded by this glistening oil from an unknown world. And I was gonna put a stop to it. So when I enlisted to fight alongside Mirrodin in my LGS and I asked around who was on my side, I quickly and crushingly realized that I was alone. I lost every game against the Phyrexians that day, and I was so angry. Angry at my complete failure to win a single game against the onslaught of infected monstrosities. Angry at my friends who beat me with these corrupted creatures. When new Phyrexia came out with even more of these twisted machines, I didn't open any packs. I didn't play in any drafts. It was the first time I skipped being involved in a Magic set, and I never looked back. I kept playing Magic until 2013 when I then moved away for college. I was in a new city with tons of schoolwork and no friends. And as a result, I got rid of my boxes of bulk, sold all but 2 of my decks, and shelved my binder of rares. I would occasionally see new cards from new sets on the internet over the years, but it wouldn't be until Adventures in the Forgotten Realms that I would then pick up the cards and start playing again. Quickly going back to collecting rares, building decks, reading the lore, and participating in events, and as my collection began to grow once more, I found myself really enjoying playing commander decks outside of the norm. Decks like Sephrus of Hidden Ways, who has you delving into the dungeon to reanimate creatures from your graveyard. And Varigoth, who I use as a secret commander to build up to the actual commander of the deck, Vecna. They're not competitive in any way, but I'm not a competitive player. I just want to have a fun time at the table and play in a unique way. And these decks, they do just that. How the fuck am I getting off of this? And after I built a deck for Torsten, the greatest commander card of all, I found to my surprise that Triumph of the Hordes would go really well in this deck, a card I hadn't thought about in years. Now you may sit there and say that Triumph of the Hordes and Craterhoof Behemoth is a common win con in Commander, but for me, it wasn't. I had never seen someone play the two together at my LGS until I did it and was then told that my brilliant idea was a common thing. But winning that game with Triumph got me to start thinking of other ways to utilize using Infect in my deck. Thus, I started adding more and more Infect cards into Torsten before realizing really early on, if I really wanted to win a game with Infect, then I should just build an Infect deck. With the disgust of the shopkeepers at my local LGS and the disdain from my best friend, I built an Infect Proliferate deck with Atraxa, the Voice of the Praetors, as my commander. And as I built it, I allowed myself to go back to the Scars of Mirrodin block and explore it properly, to delve into its story, world, characters, and cards. And I found myself engrossed in its tale. The Praetors and new Phyrexia no longer became creatures I despised or hated,
but characters I was enthralled by. Each one of them had their own goals, bonds, flaws, personality traits, and ideals that 14-year-old me had no interest in learning because he was so angry at a new way to play the game that didn't match his playstyle. And as my enjoyment for Infect and Phyrexia as a whole began to grow more and more, Wizards of the Coast announced their next lineup of sets for Magic the Gathering, and amongst them was Phyrexia. All will be one. Why am I more excited for a Magic the Gathering set now than I've ever been before? Because in early 2011, I experienced my worst Magic block set ever. And now, I feel I get a chance to redo it in a way. I get to experience a Phyrexian set with a whole new, fresh look. I get to revisit this plane with a new understanding, a new outlook, and honestly, with excitement. The art looks awesome, the card treatments look insane, and although it seems Infect has been replaced with this new Toxic ability, I'm still looking forward to experiencing what young me couldn't have, an open mind and a fun time at the table. Phyrexia All Will Be One is my chance at a re-experience, and I couldn't be more excited.
We have basic land for you to use up on the front counter.
I've been super fucking excited for this set.